anybody have a problem with to continue this session in English, or if not, to continue in Macedonian, and we will find for the one that don't understand Macedonian shadow. So as I can see, we can continue in English. So good day from me. I'm pleasure to welcome you to this second panel of this youth conference of roadmarks to the youth proper priorities. I'm Slavko Miloshevski. I'm coming from JEF Macedonia, and I was given task to moderate this discussion. This discussion will be about prosperities in. First, I forgot to mention the MP Ivana Tufekjic has some job in assembly, so she will be late or won't come. Technical question that I forgot to say. And last week in Tearce was for the Western Balkan was important event because there was held three different types of different forums. First is Civil Society Forum, the Business Forum, and Youth Forum. We have participation in every of that forums, and today we have three participants of that forum, so they will tell us more about that, what was discussion there, what was the recommendation, and what was the main topic of there, and what is the recommendation for Macedonia about that. Today with us is Dona Kosturanova, Executive Director of Youth Educational Forum and participant in the Civil Society Forum, participation of Youth Conference in Tearce, and Anelija, Mitrova, Coordinator of Youth Alliance Krushevo, participant in a Youth Conference, Youth Forum. We will have discussion about that. We have approximately 7 minutes by it, but you can take little bit more, it's not a problem. And I will ask two questions about all participants, and you will have a time to speak in all of that topics. First question is, what is the most significant discussion activity recommendation that was given from, that was speak there, and we should take seriously to do in Macedonia? And second, about discussion in the first panel, can you please share, according to you, what is the right steps to do in Macedonia? So, Dona, you can go first.
Thank you. Let me just check time. Okay. So, in regard to the Tearce Forum, as many of you probably know, Tearce is just a series of a larger process called the Berlin process, something that began 4 years ago in Berlin and was dedicated to the Western Balkans 6 countries that also include Macedonia, with the intention to provide assistance in the democratization and EU integration of the Western Balkans 6 countries. On all of these forums, one message that was sent by the governments of Germany, Austria, France, and Italy was that civil society is a key stakeholder that needs to be involved in processes that aim towards democratizing a society. With that regard, on all of the forums, on all of the political summits where the highest level of political leaders would attend, sign declarations, joint agreements, and different types of cooperations, we had two marginal but important events. One was the Youth Forum, organized by the European Youth Forum, and the other was the Civil Society Forum. On different events, we had different opportunities, but what's definite for all is that on all of the events, we prepared recommendations on behalf of civil society that we later presented to the prime ministers, foreign affairs ministers, and the representatives of the governments of the European Union, as well as the European parliamentarians. So the forum in Tearce is just part of a series expanding the Berlin process, and very important that emphasizing civil society must play a role in this process. Ironically, that we need someone to mediate between civil society in the Western Balkans and the governments in the Western Balkans. It is one of the rare opportunities we have to sit down and debate with our political leaders. I'm happy to say that the Civil Society Forum, which hosted over 200 organizations present in Trieste, and I believe quite a few more in defining the recommendations presented there, had 6 topics in which it voiced opinions towards the political leaders: business environment and innovation, rule of law, youth cooperation, regional cooperation and bilateral issues, environment, energy and climate change, and the Berlin process in the time of rising populism. I'm particularly happy that all of the recommendations are very somber and realistic to the position of the Western Balkans for the time being, but also that young people play an important role. The recommendations that were presented to the political leaders of all countries, including Macedonia, of the diplomas in the region. The second recommendation was that the governments in the Western Balkans 6 should commit to increase, encourage, and promote knowledge of kindergarten and primary education, as well as high school education. Secondly, it should encourage participation of the countries from the Western Balkans in the international standardized testing, such as PISA and TIMSS studies, and education should be more transparent and oriented towards vocational education. Third point is to develop a network of young researchers and increase the data of nation and regional-wise available research on the youth issues and priorities. And finally, RICO, which requires support to, 1, development. What's important about RICO, or the Regional Youth Cooperation Office, or RICO, is that it is the most concrete step after the connectivity agenda that was focused mainly on infrastructure development in the Western Balkans, and is the most tangible political outcome of the Berlin process. It's also important because it is by now the single and only regional youth policy we have for the Western Balkans. So in that regard, RICO is particularly important to everyone, and even though we still haven't seen the effects of it, because the last 2 years were spent in trying to establish a functional new international organization, since September, I believe, we'll start seeing the effect of the RICO existence and its purpose, because that is when the first grants should be opened. To quickly summarize just a few thoughts on RICO and RICO in Macedonia, even though the Berlin process was done with the effort to support and encourage participation of civil society and youth in the governing board as their institutions. So we had the 12-member governing board comprised of 6 individuals, young people from the Western Balkans, and 6 political leaders. However, it was the civil society organizations that had a very responsible role in advocating for a RICO representative, while the institutions in Macedonia did everything to prevent an independent representative being elected. That is why now we are in a position where for almost 1 year we have had an appointed youth representative, Ms. Bojana Naumovska, employed at the National Assembly as a councillor of the political party VMRO-DPMNE. She was appointed. And another that is accessible to you today. I will note this is a draft. We will soon, with the National Youth Council, prepare a final version that will be published. But this report comes now because after numerous requests done on meetings and 3 different access to information requests submitted to the National Agency for Youth and Sport, they would not provide us with documents. We have finally been provided with the documents, and what we can conclude about the way this process was conducted are several things. The first one is that non-existing, non-relevant youthful conditions to vote. 12 of them never provided data on when they were founded, which was a criteria because you needed to be 3 years active. 4 of them submitted legal entity files from 2013 instead of 2015. Many had copy-pasted reports. Several of them had links leading to the same websites as their own respective websites. And several of them also submitted, to be specific, their applications after the deadline expired and should never have been admitted. 13 of these organizations participated in the vote with which Bojana Naumovska was appointed representative. Regarding the applications of the applicants themselves, there were 2 calls. The majority of applications, with the exclusion of 2 applications, the one meaning it should have never been taken into account. Ms. Naumovska's second application has only 1 reference letter instead of 3 reference letters, which are the criteria to be part of that. And also she violates another criteria which stated any person applying to be part of the voting working group will not have the right to run for representative of young people. So these numerous violations were something that the agency actively hid from us by not allowing us access to the documents. But now that we have them, the case that the youth representative is not legally mandated to represent young people in the country has been confirmed, and our position as youth organizations, the National Youth Council's position, and the majority of youth organizations that we do not recognize this person as our representative has proven to be correct. And that is why at this point the only thing we're asking from the institutions is to odpovika, or to cancel, to annul the appointment, to revoke the appointment of this person as a so-called youth representative, because there is absolutely no legal basis for that, and to immediately open a genuine youth call. My colleagues will say how they expect the call to look like, but I will give you only one piece of data, and that is exactly like we wanted it to look like last year, but we were not allowed by a partisan and corrupt agency for youth and sport. Finally, I would like to give my thanks to all of the international and domestic organizations that assisted in listening to us talk about this project, that included comments on it in their various reports, statements, or other opportunities, and that were vigilant and open enough to listen to our opinions. I will conclude with a statement given by the the president of the European Youth Forum, the highest youth representative body in Europe, Mr. Luis Alvarado Martinez, which was given during the Youth Summit in Trieste. He said that we are concerned about the process for election of a youth representative in Macedonia, because we know that things are not going according to the agreed ethical standards. And when that happens, we are all responsible to act. So whether it's institutions, whether it's civil society, whether it's activists, whether it's media, whether it's international organizations, we all have a duty to take a firm and ethical stance when faced with things that we do not believe are following the ethical and moral norms of society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dona, for explaining the situation here and the recommendation from Tearce. The second speaker is Vladimir, and please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your participation. I'm really happy that I see many people here experienced in youth work and youth policy, and it's my pleasure that I can share you the process since when I was involved. I started to be involved in this Berlin process since the Paris conference, Paris Youth Forum. Actually, the process started here before some months when we had a meeting in the EU delegation, where it was the director of youth and sport, the previous one. And from that time, I saw a goodwill of people that actually many people wanted to do something for this country and to change the situation. And we had a very good start with promising that the whole process will be very inclusive, very transparent. So we went to Paris with very optimistic energy, and we started to work in the we were in the four groups there. And it was very interesting. In Paris was shorter than Trieste, the conference. We had less time there for writing recommendation. It was visible because it was first youth conference that Paris was. It was start of the promotion of RICO offices and all these things. But after coming back home, as Dona stated, we had a big troubles after 1 month of it. When we started to work on the strategy, on the how we will elect a representative in the governing board of RICO, when they saw that actually we had different approach, more inclusive than the national, than the agency of youth and sport, we started to be blocked. Immediately they changed they changed the process, and they kind of left us out of it. So it was visible, as you saw, that actually we are all aware that all the process was election thief, because of the organization that are actually not involved in youth policy, youth work. So after, again, I will state that actually Bojana Naumovska is not our representative in the RICO, and she must be changed very soon. And I'm happy that I heard from the director of Youth and Sport that they will start the process when we have the process, how it's actually how many things are not good. So we will be now again we will try to work with the Agency of Youth and Sport, and we will try again to elect a representative which will represent the youth and which will be more competent than this one. After this Paris conference, it happened the Ljubljana conference, or how it's called. There it was made action plan. Unfortunately, I was not presented there, but I must say that actually the action plan it's very good done. It has many topics and many concrete steps that should be implemented. It's the topics are European citizenship, youth participation, social inclusion, youth employment, combating radicalism and extremism, and dealing with the past. Then we came to the Tearce summit. There again we were split in 4 groups. In that role, I had a role of reporter there, so I presented the recommendation. I must say that Tearce summit was much better organized. We had more time to work on the recommendations, and we created, I think, better recommendation. There are many more things included, and we had better cooperation there. So in my group, I can say that almost all the ideas are implemented in the recommendation. But what is the problem? Since Paris until now, I think that nothing is implemented. So we had a process of more than 1 year that nothing is implemented. So we finally have to start working on the recommendation. We all agree that this is the final time that we write the recommendation. It's enough of it. We know where we should go, what we should do. But first of all, we must put back the belief of the young people, of the youth workers, that we really can start working on all this recommendation, and to have a better cooperation with the ministries, with the National Youth Council and youth organization, all together. Let's start working. Let's see what can be implemented immediately, what have to be implemented later. It's enough also of the strategies, documents that are just put in somewhere and nobody care of it. We just implement new things which just doesn't make sense. So that's it, what I can say, and I'm really happy again that actually many people are here, and I see the belief that actually we will do something. We'll start working and start directly focusing on the topics that are in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir. And the next is Anelija. Anelija, take the floor.
Thank you for the invitation. As you already mentioned, I had the honor to attend the youth forum, connecting the youth moving forward, and this was one unique platform where we, the young people, had the opportunity to exchange our ideas and to have a dialogue about youth challenges and to shape ideas that will shape our joint future in the next period. So the Connecting Youth Moving Forward EU Western Balkan was an initiative to bring together more than 130 young people from Western Balkan and from EU countries. Many youth organizations, academia, and decision makers also attended the youth forum. The event was organized by the European Youth Forum, and we had the chance to have a panel discussion with the president of the Youth Forum, Luis Alvarado Martinez, who spoken loudly and publicly about the Macedonian government should legitimize the National Youth Council of Macedonia as one of the representatives youth and relevant youth bodies in our country. Also, on the Youth Forum, we discussed the following horizontal themes relevant to our region. Firstly, the work of the Regional Youth Cooperation Office, RYCO, as we talked a lot on this panel, on the previous panel, but I would like to say as well that on the Youth Forum itself, we talked about RYCO and about the process and about our statement and our attitude towards it. And the regional secretary of RYCO stated that it's internally, that we need to resolve this situation internally, so it's up to us now, up to youth organizations to make a cooperation with the Agency of Youth and Sport and to make this process again, to renovate this process and to make it legitimate and inclusive, and to elect the proper youth representatives who will be part of the governmental board of RYCO. Also, we discussed about the Young Civil Servant Scheme, which is a capacity building or a pilot project for capacity buildings of professionals for next generation of region. Also, we talked about the mobility of the young people, Erasmus Plus program, even though it was the 30th anniversary of the program, it's a very important tool that we, the Western Balkans country, can use for youth mobility and for developing our skills and competencies as youth organizations as well. And bridging the gap between youth policy, youth participations, and the parliamentarians, where we had our MP Ivana, who was talking about how young people can be part of the parliament and can advocate and request for the youth rights into the government of our country. Sorry. In the end, the participants addressed accommodation that will be recognized by our governments, and we will start working on it. So the recommendations were divided in the following topics: mobility and exchanges. One of the recommendations is sustainable support for quality youth information. Then developing a mobility scheme for young workers from the Western Balkans to enable them to gain professional experience, and intra-regional student mobility. It was emphasized during the Youth Forum that many of the young people in the Western Balkans are going for Erasmus Plus in European countries, in, I don't know, France, England, Germany, but none of them is going into the region. None of them is going to the neighboring countries, and many of them not even ever been to Belgrade or to Sarajevo. So now we should make an inter-regional student association, and the young people from the Western Balkans to go to a youth exchange in the countries that are in this region. The second topic was inclusion or overcoming the stereotypes. We have concluded that the stereotypes and the inclusion of the marginalized groups is in a very poor level in each of these 6 countries, and we should all focus on it. And the recommendation was strengthening the capacities of the youth organization which are working in this field, advocacy capacities towards public authorities of representatives of marginalized groups, also raising the public awareness through independent media who will address this issue to all of us, that the marginalized groups, we shouldn't talk about the marginalized groups, we should talk with them. So we should include them in any areas of our working, and we should work more thoroughly regarding this issue and in order to overcome all the older stereotypes that we are facing in 21st century. The next topic was entrepreneurship. The recommendations that were addressed were entrepreneurial learning as a key competence in all parts of education, and structured cooperation between education and the business. Also structured regional cooperation that creates innovative and a sustainable mechanism to promote investments and mentorships. And in the end, the conclusions for youth participation was introducing the civic education in the school, on a regular basis, and also to create an informal group or a co-management body that will follow the decision-making processes. The youth, it will be a youth management body that will follow all the decision-making processes. This body should ensure effective communication and open dialogue in order to co-design, discuss, evaluate, and monitoring youth policies at all the levels in order to be more transparent and more efficient for all of us. These all recommendations were demonstrated related to these challenges, and it's up to us that we should make the pressure and in order to adopt all of these recommendations. Also, one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest discussions and outcomes from the Youth Forum, and that it's about time for reconciliation of the Balkans and interministerial cooperation path of EU. We should cooperate between the civil society sector and all the relevant institutions in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Anelija. And now I want Martin to show the research about procedure of choosing the member of RICO.
You also have the set of the recommendation in your chairs. Sorry for the quality, but it was in a short minute printed, if someone wants to read them.
So I'm Ivana now. As I mentioned in my in the opening panel, also Dona mentioned that here now we have a document. This is a draft version, but actually are the first findings that are based on the documentation that now we are able to obtain from the agency. So I don't know how much of you are aware about the timeline of all the activities. By all our efforts to obtain the documentation started back in August 2016 or July. Since in the moment we understood and we were aware of what kind of organizations are part of the group, we wanted to get more information in order to have a common trust in the group in order to be able to elect a representative that will represent all of us. But based on all the requests for public information, access to public information that was sent by us, we will never, up till now, we were not able to obtain the information that we need. So the agency always given us information, but not the information that we requested. So we requested for full list of documents of each organization, and we will be only given the list of participants in the working group. So more or less all the time they didn't allow us with all of the documents, but always accepting our public request for public information, but with limited information. And based on what we were able to obtain now, since we got the information maybe 1 week ago, and we are still under research of everything that is given. In this short document, we have noted several things that are very important to, and it really influences the whole process and gives the legitimacy of the process a big question. So first, we have a 66 organization, but if we see the structure of this organization, we see that first we have six institutions within. So we have people from the institution that were able to vote for youth representative, even though the institution have their own separate representative in the governing board of RICO. So our first note for the process was that institutions should not have a right to vote in the working group, since the point is to elect a youth representative by youth organization. But this, our request was not accepted, and they continue to be part of the group with a voting right. We said that first the institution should be there giving their feedback, but their right of vote should be revoked since they have their own representative. Additionally, we found a situation when since we are National Youth Council Macedonia is network organization, and we have other organizations working at the field of youth for many, many years, we saw some organizations that are not very familiar to us. Neither we were able either to cooperate or to participate on their event, or be able to have any contact. In order to have, as I meant, to have a common trust, we requested some info for that organization, and we were not submitted that info. But other way, we were able to find something that was existing even on the net, even in the central registry, and yet even from 2016, we know for some of them that they haven't submitted their let's say activity report to the central registry, and the central registry didn't register them as active organizations. So that means that they submitted, since one of the important criteria for participating to submit a narrative report for 2015, we question ourselves how could an organization that is unregistered as non-active in the central registry to be able to receive funds and to give a narrative report for 2015. So that was the first question that we all we were requesting answers. We didn't get the answers, of course. Additionally, when we go through the documentation, since we submitted these criteria, the youth organization in the working group, but we didn't want to be very, we wanted to be inclusive, but we want to put some common or decent level of activity. Therefore, we put criteria that were more or less able many organizations to fulfill. But we found out that some organizations actually didn't do anything in 2015, but yet they were becoming part of the working group. And more importantly, we have organizations that have listed activities that happened in 2016 as activities that happened in 2015. So this is, for example, we have an organization that says that it has a member in the local youth council of city of Skopje, but that local youth council was created in May 2016. So these kind of things were something that are either this organization should be put on the site, and then this commission that was created in the agency to go through the documentation, or should be denied to be part of the working group. Additionally, we found that since we have physically given the documentation, it's very easily for us to obtain information that some of the narrative reports and documentation were done by one person, since all the templates are the same, only the content of the information is changed. So this is the other thing that raises question whether these people that have put in their signature and stamp as representatives of the organization actually prepare this documentation and send to the agency. Additionally, if we go through this more extensive report, this organization have been giving the right to vote into the working group. So if you were following us with the updates that they were giving for RICO, we have two let's say roles, or two times we have voted 2 times for youth representative. The first time, since the majority of organizations didn't vote for the representative, the agency decided that this call will be nulled, and new call for electing of representative was published. And then again, we as youth organization have the opportunity to participate. But then there was this on the second call. One of the interesting findings is that the people that have put in their signature on the participant list that are on the voting, and the actual number that was presented by the agency didn't match. So we have 2 or 3 people that are less, they have been in the official information by the agency. For example, we have 35 people that voted, but if we see the participant list and the list of voting list, we have 31 people that voted. So more or less this kind of I wouldn't say irregularities, but this kind of things that were not visible at that moment really put another perspective on the process, and really makes the process to be not legitimate. So we won't go and question the individual applications of the candidates, but we see the process as very important tool for youth participation. So for this 1 year, we were, as Macedonian youth was not very warmly welcome with the process, and our reputation as youth organization in the region was decreased. So in order to be able to really fulfill or to show our democratic potential as youth organization, from the beginning of 2016 up till now, we are requesting for a new process that will be able to follow all democratic principles and values that we all as youth organization follow, and we will be really able to be a good example for youth participation and really bring back the reputation that we really deserve, and we really work hard for the past 10 years to give a reputation that we're good organization working based on democratic principles, and we are glad that we see there's a open door and opportunity for us to cooperate now with the agency, with the director, and we hope in the upcoming period, maybe till December, we'll be able to fully elect a youth representative. But because the working group and the governing body is established, it is already working, and in the upcoming period should decide about the projects of RICO in order to have a continuation of the participation of the country. We also requested to have an interim youth representative, so person that will be appointed by the agency that will act as a representative of the governing board until the process of election of youth participant in the governing board will be finished. So we hope that this is a very important, since the governing board in RICO is voting with consensus. So if there's no possibility of somebody to be represented there, so all the RICO will be again in a position without making any decisions. So we should always keep in mind that we are not alone in this group. That we have all 5 more Balkan countries there, and we should also act upon the regional perspective, but as well the national perspective. And now the national perspective and priority is to have a good and positive election process with a representative that will be really representing all youth organizations in the country. So thank you about that. Just additionally, this report is now in Macedonia, but for all international partners and donors, each of you will receive a English translation of the same report. And please, if you have any questions or you request any more information, we warmly welcome you to assist you and provide you with information.
Thank you, Martin, for this explanation about the process. And it's very interesting how much they do wrong. And now I'm opening the floor. If anybody has any kind of question, you can put in English or in Macedonian. It doesn't matter. If you have any question.
Hello, my name is Biljana Everett. I'm from the Aeronautical Federation of Macedonia. I want to know if any of the responsible actors will be called to answer for the irregularities.
So since the process was done in the agency and there were people responsible in the commission for selection of organizations to participate there, and also they have a selection commission for nominations for youth representative. So these people are there in the agency, and yes, of course, one of our idea and our effort is that somebody should take responsibility for these actions, in order to, not because we want personally to do something, but it's very good to make a positive example that government should have a responsibility and accountability in their efforts and their cooperation with youth organizations. So additionally, I wanted to add that even though we have a listed 20 organizations, we as National Youth Council or other youth organization doesn't have personally anything against this organization, but we think that they're not now at this point not able to participate in the group, and we will provide our cooperation and support in order to make them developed and able to really participate fully in all youth processes. We don't want the process to be just narrowed to the organization that are very experienced and very developed, but yet other organizations that are not in the development should have the proper space provided by us to develop. But to be in the position to have the same voting rights as other organizations is something that should be, we all should question. And I think that in this upcoming period, we won't change the criteria for being part of the group, but we will be really strict and go through the organization and their proven capacity and proven experience to really be able to streamline their experience through the vote in the working group.
Thank you very much.
Nah.
Thank you. My name is Goran Gjorgjievski from the Scouts Association of Macedonia. I have two questions. First, thank you for the report that you bring to us and everything, the representation there. My main question is, have the National Youth Council considered to advocate and ask the Agency of Youth and Sports to leave completely the process of the election of the new representative to the National Youth Council, recognizing the role of the National Youth Council and building trust and letting the process of electing youth representative to be from the young people? That is the first question. And the second question is, having in mind that we are in a very unique period of transition, and all these recommendations and the process is at our hands, has the National Youth Council think about building a platform to use now all this energy that is in the civil society and the support of the international community to facilitate the dialogues with the institutions in order to put this priority in joint cooperation plans in future? Concerning to this also is related to the National Youth Strategy and its revision possibilities. Thank you.
So thank you, Goran. Regarding the first question that is related about the upcoming phases and future steps of the process, yeah, we have talked about with the agency that we should have another meetings and several meetings to see what kind of model we should use in order to elect a representative. But now more we are focusing about making all the important information and documenting this information for the process that happened in 2016. So the idea is to have real facts and decision by the agency that the process was not legitimate, and then that the decision to appoint the youth representative should be revoked, and then we should appoint, as I say, interim, and then go through the new process. But I like your idea because at the beginning of this process, actually, if you don't know, Goran was the part of the first nominated for being a youth representative is Rajko, and he was part of the first round of voting. And actually he was very involved within the National Youth Council regarding Rajko. And in one of the discussions that we had with the agency, our first idea is that this whole process should be not done through the mechanisms of the agency. So that was our first initial idea, but then the agency said to us that it's not possible something to be done outside of the agency and to request a decision by the director of the agency. So more or less they said to us that it's normal, or it's only a possible way to have a genuine elected representative is through the mechanisms of the Agency of Youth and Sport. So now we're going to explore the situation whether we are able to have a process that would be supported by the agency, but not go through the channels of the structure of the agency. So we should be aware that this is all done by decisions based on a law. So we should, in order to have a genuine representative, our decisions and actions should comply with existing laws. So if there's a possibility to do it externally, of course, we're going to advocate for it. But if the laws are applying that we should go through the system of the institution, then we're going to find good mechanisms how to do it. Regarding the second question that is aimed about platform that will join all the energy, actually, the National Youth Council is that platform. And then we really, we think that now we will be able to fully implement our potential and the initial ideas of National Youth Council of really connecting young people with the institution and acting as a representative body. So we think that we will be a good example that would also allow other youth, civil society organizations from other fields to become or to connect to a platform that would connect better with other representatives of the institutions, since we only work with young people and we have other groups in our society that really needs to have a platform that will advocate for. But the point is not just to create a platform, we need to have a platform that is democratic and functional and also has a strong possibility to cooperate with the institution. If we just create platforms that will just be able to present information to the platform and backwards, then we won't be working efficiently, and we won't really be able to advocate or to represent the voice of the young people or the other groups to the highest levels. You want to add?
I would like to build up on Goran's statement as a person coming from a member organization of the National Youth Council, particularly on the second question, that there are new dynamics in society and then we need to adapt to them very quickly in an ethical and constructive way. The National Youth Council, I fully support in the endeavors to act as a youth representative body, and we as an organization stand behind it completely and aspire for a co-management body to be established as soon as possible, but through a consultative process that would involve the National Youth Council's members. But I would like to mention two other processes that the Council should jump on that are very important civil society dynamics. One is the revision of the decision to establish a council for cooperation between civil society and the government, something that civil society organizations, 89 of them, including YEF and Young European Federalists, and Youth Alliance, Krushevo and SED, and the National Youth Council supported, and that decision will be annulled, and we will have as a broader civil society a platform to represent our opinions through 10 thematic areas towards the government. And we should use that also as a module, and National Youth Council should see how it will position regarding the sector youth that is part of that Council for Cooperation with Civil Society, because we want to establish it in truly a way that will be functional and appropriate. A second process that the Council is also involved in, but is really relevant, is the blueprint or manual for urgent democratic reforms, something civil society organizations proposed 1 year ago, and now we can see the text of it somehow as part of this plan 369. But while that is being implemented, civil society organizations, over 100, sat down and devised new requests towards the government in different areas. One of the highlights for us particularly is the sector youth and education, which has a lot of measures on quality education, access to education, reform of the voting on the comprehensive strategy for education, revision of the national youth strategy, revision of the RICO process, and others that have gathered us new allies outside of the youth circles standing together. And this is also a relevant platform we should take into account, because it broadens our perspective and brings new expert and involved responsible organizations in the field of youth and education. These are processes that are in no way competition, but something that we can embrace and use to leverage our opinions and further legitimize and support our demands and requests from the authorities.
Thank you to both. Do we have more questions? Yeah.
It's maybe I'm Piet, Civica Mobilitas. Maybe more a remark than a question. In addition to what Dona said, I think that I would actually like to call upon the organizations to use us as a platform too, as a support, to the grandiose work that you're doing. We have a youth platform of collaboration, the media. When you're mentioning other organizations outside of the direct youth field, we have all the platforms of collaboration in place. So use Civica as a channel, and I would say not exclusive for Civica Mobilitas grantees. Not all of you might know that we have currently 208 NGOs granted, right? It's by far the biggest program with the biggest footprint, but use it for what it is. And don't always believe what colleagues in other organizations say. If there's any problem, talk with me, and use Civica as a channel, to build alliances and to move this frontier forward. One particular recommendation maybe is we also have possibilities through our media group and also one of the media grants, actually several media grants. We have 44 members in the media group, TV channels, organizations supporting media, etc., etc., to make this particular story into, I would say, a media output like a documentary, not just something that is documented on paper, but use the media resources to build this story, to build that case study and get it out as soon as possible. I think this is a classical, well, not even classical, I would say a very blunt, though creative example of how liberal democracies work, and how we all suffer from fascists and other people, and maybe not just fascists, also just ordinary people who are just not acting democratic and are not acting in accordance with what we think how society should function. And I really, really think this should be well documented. Radio, social media, but also just a video production that can hopefully be done through, or with the support of Civica, not through Civica, but with our support, and to get it out as soon as possible, including statements by European politicians, parliamentarians, ordinary people in the youth movement in Europe, like how disgraceful and disrespectful, and how people can act with a total lack of dignity, and just get away with it until we liberate those spaces. So yeah, take that into account. I would really like to call upon to the youth members in or the youth organizations in Civica to have very soon an ad hoc meeting and to talk about this and to move this forward. And oh my God, I'm so proud of you guys.
Think you have any more questions? No. Maybe you have some kind of commentary about everything?
Oh, we have one question. Yes, Pom.
Здраво на сите. Бидејќи сме во Македонија, немам проблем да зборувам англиски, меѓутоа сметам дека треба да се обратам на македонски, иако доаѓам од меѓународна организација, немојте да ми замерите. Слажана Марјановиќ Пановска од NDI. Честитки за доброто представување во Трст и тоа што мислам дека настане одличен пример како треба да се пренесуваат повратно информации за да може целиот сектор да биде добро информиран и за да се направи добар пристап и стратегија, нели, како понатаму заеднички. Значи не е прашање, малку повеќе е коментар. Штета што Ивана не успеа да дојде заради обврски во парламентот. Меѓутоа сакав да ви укажеме на една можност која ќе следи многу брзо и можеби и пред септември целиот сектор ќе мора да се ангажира малку повеќе. Значи NDI работи во Македонија многу одамна, околу 20 години сме стратешки партнер на парламентот и работиме на различни процеси во парламентот. Нешто што е најново од вчера, тоа е дека со консензус помина одлуката да се формира во многу скоро време Youth Caucus во македонскиот парламент по примерот на Европскиот парламент. Значи работиме на тие политички преговори во моментов и многу скоро ќе ја видиме таа неформална група во собранието, која можеби уште за месец дена веќе ќе отвори еден консултативен процес со граѓанскиот сектор и со институциите кои имплементираат младински политики. И од тука нашиот апел е, значи, до вас, иако сето ова се случува во законодавниот дом, ништо не е финиширано, можеби се преиспитувавме со Филип дали да го споделиме, меѓутоа сметаме дека процесите и премногу брзо се движат, ние не сме навикнати на ова не беше наша реалност доскоро, да не излезе дека од другата страна има случувања, а дека граѓанскиот сектор ќе каска, значи нема да стигне со своите предлози, значи нашиот апел е летово да го искористите, добро да се подготвите, зашто немаме време 3 месеци, 6 месеци да дебатираме, па ревизија на стратегијата, па чекај што сакаме, па како сакаме. Значи бидете спремни, затоа што за многу скоро, можеби до крајот на летото веќе ќе бидете повикани на еден широк консултацијски процес да дадете своји сугестии за да се придвижат сите овие работи дури и пред септември. Се надевам дека многу скоро ќе ни се случи сето тоа и дека ќе ве видиме во законодавниот дом да дадете свој придонес.
Фала на коментарот. Имате некој коментар? Do you have any kind of comment?
Just to add to Petrus that all these conferences have been streamed through Radio MOF, so you will be able to obtain, if you want, the copy of the same. But actually, most of the things that are connected with the, let's say, with the process of RICO were well documented on the social media. But because of what kind of circumstances that all these things were happening and occur, we didn't have enough space. Either the focus of the media were in other directions. So unfortunately, that didn't allow us to create a bigger public awareness and to have this public pressure behind us as support. But anyway, we we are happy now that we can actually work something related to that, and then the media and the mass media and the citizens will hear something good, not bad, since I think we are all exhausted of hearing bad things, and now we can act and create something good and then share this positive process practices towards everyone.
I don't see any more question. You have any more question? You have any comment? No. So I will thank all to the speakers and to other guests for this conference, to be a part of this conference, and I hope that we will continue to speak about the problem of the youth in Macedonia and to speak about the solution, finding the solution about the problems that youth have in Macedonia. And I hope that we will see you again in different format or in same format. So thank you for coming, and thank you to the speaker one more time.